Okay, we're recording now. All right, so we're doing study guide 3, weeks 11 through 15. So the first one we're going to look at is question number 1. What are the dates-ish of the Enlightenment? So what'd you guys come up with? What's your answer to that one? Yep, perfect, Evan. 1650 to 1800 will work spectacularly. So that's the dates of the Enlightenment worldview. Again, ish, there's a lot of crossover there. All right, so what are or who were some of the most influential scholars during the Enlightenment period? You remember in our class we talked about several of them. We actually studied and we did group presentations on a bunch of them. So, yep, Kant, Rousseau, Wollstonecraft, Hobbes. In class, we also, you remember we talked about the big Franklin himself. Benjamin Franklin would work. Thomas Jefferson is also a great example of an Enlightenment scholar. So those all would be great questions, okay? So then, how can I effectively contribute to a group project? What were some of the things you guys came up with for that? First one is to actually show up, do the readings, participate, right? Give your best effort. I would love to see from this answer something like, I learned how important it is to do what? Like truly take a second to think about it and say, what did you learn this time around in a group project? Because group projects can be very frustrating and they can also be very, very rewarding. Yeah, that's perfect, Devin. That would be perfect if you put that on your study guide. That's fantastic. But that's what I'm really looking for. If I just see somebody writing, do all your readings, period, that doesn't quite do it for me. I may ask you to do just a little bit more than that. Okay. All right. How can learning be used effectively to enlighten our lives? So we're talking about the Enlightenment. How can learning be used effectively to enlighten our lives? What did you guys come up with? What were some of your thoughts? Devin, you can't type anything. You've typed in the last 3 answers. I saw you typing again. You are effectively contributing to this group project, and now everybody else is going to as well. You guys are all like, wait a second, Mr. Jensen. We actually showed up to your study guide session. What are some of the things that learning can do to enlighten our lives? So a lot of times when and especially what we studied the philosophers, but I want you to remember that during the Enlightenment, this was a big explosion in science, right? Oh, somebody's screaming. It's to enlighten our lives. It makes it better. There was advances in science, in medicine, in the way that we viewed the world. All of these things made it so that we could see clearer, we could see better what was going on in our lives. Okay, so that's something like that would be great. All right, so if you want to type what else you had in there, it's fine now. I'd love to see what you had. Remember Wollstonecraft. Wollstonecraft. Yeah, I like that, Devin. That's really good. Remember, Wollstonecraft thought to herself, wait a second, why are we creating a society where women are treated less than men? Did that enlighten her life? Did that benefit other people's lives? Absolutely. And so it can have a great benefit, right? Nope, Lauren, you're at the right time. I just, a lot of these students are from the class you're not familiar with. So, all right. Aisha, the answer to number 2 was the a lot of the philosophers that we did those group projects on. So like Kant and Hobbes and Locke and Wollstonecraft and Rousseau. And then we also talked about Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. So, okay. All right. The final one, and this is a great one. This is a little tricky. It's kind of opinionated. I'm really tempted to just let you guys answer it because I don't think this is, it's kind of an opinionated question. How can the use of right reason help me to serve, love, and have a more fulfilling life in general? How does the Enlightenment philosophy of right reason help me to live and serve and love better? What do you guys think? As long as you give me a good effort, couple of sentences, I'll give you, I'll give you points on this. Right reason. That's just a way of saying there's wrong reason. There's stupid reason out there as well, where you're just kind of tricking yourself. Right reason is properly thinking things through. Yeah, except Lauren, the Enlightenment was more about the thoughts in your own head, not necessarily in religious beliefs, but more of how you yourself can think things through. It totally does. It helps you to help others. Let's just use an example. Wollstonecraft or Rosa Parks. How did right reason help them serve a part of society that had been repressed? Right? Does that make sense? If you start to think about it, just don't accept the way things are, but actually analyze it and think about it. And then you look at it and you say, okay, wait a second. Every time I get on the bus, I'm asked to go to the back of the bus if there's people with a different skin color than me. Does that make sense to me? Is that right? Is that reasonable? It's not. And therefore, it forces you, if you allow it, it forces you to make a correction to that injustice. It makes you to be aware of things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. So Wollstonecraft, she looks at it and she says, why are women treated so much worse in this society than men? That doesn't make sense. And so she starts to change it. She starts to write books and tries to get people to change that. Rosa Parks does the same thing. Okay? Does that help? Does that make sense? Let me see what you put in. If you're helping someone just to get good PR, you're not doing it for the right reason. Yeah, I like that as well. You're helping because of principle, right? Ian wrote, I think that when we do things for the right reason, people trust us more. If you're helping someone just to get good public relations, you're not doing it for the right reason. It helps you to focus on what's really important, what really matters. The principle involved, not necessarily, I'm just helping them out because it's going to make me look good. All right. All right. Welcome, Bradley. It's good to see you. And who else snuck in here while I was mumbling? I think Mason came in. Haley, when did you get here? I forget. Were you here at the beginning? Anyways, welcome. Welcome all. All right. So that's number 5. Let's go to number 6. What are the dates-ish of the Romantic worldview? Would you guys have it? Okay. 1780 to 1850, roughly. All right. What are the values, or what does the world look like through the glasses of the Romantic worldview? What do you value? And I only need about 3 or 4 main things, because then after that we start to get it cluttered up with so much. But if you were to summarize, what does a romantic look for? What does a romantic value? what would you say? Yep. So Bradley wrote, they like being more free and not being too formal. They valued government that would help all, not just some. They didn't really care about the rules, but they cared about the heart. They didn't care about the mind, the reason. It was emotion and feeling, right? Very good. Drama, yes, Rebecca. It was much more dramatic. Devin puts inspiration, symbols, and beauty had a great part in the romantic worldview. Science theories were not enough, and nature was greater than us. People made decisions based on feelings and emotions. Yep, that's good. I like that. If I were to summarize it, I would just, in many ways, I would put it as a reaction to the Enlightenment. There's too much thinking going on, not enough feeling. We're too impressed with ourselves and not impressed enough with this unbelievably incredible earth and nature and that type of thing. Okay, so something along those lines. Did I freeze? Bradley, am I still frozen? Bees are buzzing, kids will blow dandelion fuzz. Okay, all right, let's go on to the next one. Am I more classical Enlightenment or romantic in my view? So I'm just going to tell you all what you're going to be, and then you'll just go with it. All right. All right. I think most of you guys, I think a lot. Well, I think a lot of you are romantic. There was a lot more happiness when I was talking about the romanticism than there was with the Enlightenment slides. I remember that. Maybe you just have bad feelings because I made you do that group project. Okay. So that's just your opinion. Am I more romantic or am I more classical? And I would love to see some. I've got to see just a little bit of explanation. I don't want you to just say I'm more romantic and then go to the next question. I want to say at least a sentence or two describing why. And Taylor, that's a totally acceptable answer. If I were to write this, I would say in my governmental views, I'm much more Enlightenment. I believe in a rigid, formal set of rules that really don't bend for anything. But in my personal dealings, in my religious side, in my in my dealings with other people, I'm much more romantic. I'm romantic with all my friends. That doesn't sound quite right, but you know what I'm saying, right? Okay. My wife's just right over there, and she didn't even smile. She did. I did not even get a reaction from her. All right. What are the dates of the Victorian worldview? What are the dates of the Victorian worldview? What'd you guys come up with? No, I just read your comment, Lauren. Thanks. Thanks for that. Okay, yeah, it's the era of Queen Victoria, 1837 to 1901. Yep, 1837 to 1901 roughly is the dates that Queen Victoria was on the throne, and that's when that's what we call the Victorian era. So the next question then is, of course, what does the world look like through the glasses of the Victorian worldview? So if you were to summarize and tell me, give me 3 or 4 things that summarize the Victorian era, what would it be? Yeah, Bradley, those are 2 of the important ones, right? They wanted to portray things as they really are, not as this romantic optimism of my heart, but that realistically how things are. And then they wanted to portray also the plight of the innocents, the women and the children. And again, that's sexist in today's society, but in the Victorian era, the damsel in distress was quite a popular notion, right? It still is. Sometimes I come home and rescue my wife from my screaming kids, and she loves it. She loves it. So, all right. Devin, you put the world during the Victorian time period was very realistic and focused on the innocence of children and supposedly women. They valued religion and nature. Very good. Yep, very good. Uh, Taylor, you put valued realism, restraint, realistic art, and religion. Very good. That's an important addition. Restraint, right? We're not going to get carried away with our emotions. Let's not have any weeping, crying, emotional stuff going on here. Let's show her some restraint. So think of all of the great, stuffy British television shows that show Victorian era stuff, and that's that you get that feeling of restraint. Okay. All right. Well done. Well done. That's the Victorian worldview. Now let's go on to economics. So the question is, what are economics? We defined that in class on Tuesday. Yep, Bradley, that's a great definition. The rules or customs that you set up a house or a country, how a country handles its money, businesses, finances, all of that. That's the study of economics. It's huge. I took several economics classes in college, microeconomics, macroeconomics, and we studied supply and demand and all sorts of really fun stuff. Rebecca, I could tell that it didn't sound fun to you, but it really is fun. You'll love it. When you go to college, you'll love it. All right. Yep, Taylor, that's perfect. Economics is how a country manages its money and businesses. Perfect. All right. So then the next question is, why was the trade route so helpful in spreading ideas? And I am, for the first time, realizing that I was going to delete that question from the study guide because I deleted those slides from my slide deck. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Okay, so I want you all.
I can probably answer it anyway.
Yeah, you probably could, right? So really quick lesson. You got two options here. You can either just delete that question because I won't grade it. Just delete it. Yes, Grayson. Grayson, that's the happiest I've seen you all week. The happiest I've seen Grayson all week is when he gets to delete a question off my study guide. All right. If just for your general information, though, the trade route, as you spread and took ideas and businesses back and forth, and Bennett, I know you can answer this, those ideas spread, right? Because you had merchants from Europe traveling all the way over to China and then traveling all the way back, and they brought with them ideas, new technologies, new ways to do things. All right. But we cover that in Humanities 6, 7, and I was going to delete it from these slides because we already cover it in another portion in our school curriculum. So, all right, well done. All right, what is industrialism based on today's lecture and what we talked about just briefly last Tuesday, except I think we missed it. What is it? Yeah, I didn't really go over this. So industrialism is just the buildup of large factories, large industry, and so you get a complete shift in the way that we organize society. In 1789, when America starts, when George Washington, when the big GW is brought in to be the first president of the United States, 97% of America is farmers, are farmers. 97%. Today, about 3 to 5%, depending on how you want to count it. Today, about 3 to 5% are farmers. That is a huge shift. Industrialism was where that major shift happened, where people left farming, they left the agrarian way of doing things. They moved to the cities, they moved to the suburbs, and they got jobs in factories, in businesses, in service industries, those type of things. How many of you live on farms and how many of you live in towns or cities? Okay. So what Bradley put in the chat box would be just fine. Industrialism is the time that factories start to build up and more people move to the city. Devin, that would be perfect too. The buildup of large factories and industries, a big shift in how our environment is presented. Yep. I would guess that 95, 98% of the dads and moms that work in our school community are not farmers. We probably, there's there's lawyers, there's accountants, there's people that work in the service industries, all of those type of things, but just very few of us are farmers anymore. I never make fun of people spelling Bennett because I'm like the worst speller. I really struggle with spelling. So if you tell me that's how you spell suburbs, I'll tell you that's just fine with me. Okay, that's industrialism. So let's move on to the modern world. We covered this just today. So what are the dates of the modern worldview? Yep, perfect. 1900 to 1970. I personally, for me, I like to go to 1974 because I like to think that I'm the death of the modern era. It's my least favorite one. So I like to think that my birth was killed the modern era, but that's just me thinking that I'm pretty important. All right. How are the big questions answered in the modern worldview? So the big questions are, what's the purpose of life? Is there a God? Is there meaning in life? How would you answer that as a modern? So let's just answer this one. What is the purpose of life? Do you remember some of that modern art that we were looking at? It was filled with chaos. It was filled with no rules. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So yeah, what's the purpose of life? Power, strength, and there's really not a deeper meaning to it. That's how I would answer it. There's no real deep mythological, religious, divine meaning to life. It's just about power, and it's just about building things up and strength, and there's a lot of chaos. Now, not everybody in the modern worldview believes that, right? Not everybody. But when you go back and you study somebody like Adolf Hitler, his whole purpose in life was to create and gain power. You go study communism, it's all about power. The meaning to life is to have and create power. Okay? It really is sad, Lauren. That's why Mr. Jensen's birth stopped all that nonsense. All right. Yeah, Bradley, go ahead.
Do you think most people got the idea of that the worldview is kind of like big purpose of life is power and strength, because a lot of sad things happened then, like you said, Hitler and I can't even talk right now. Like World War II and all kinds of other things that people were crazed for power. Is that why you think they kind of made that, like, I don't know, the main thing?
Yeah, that's a great point, Bradley. I totally agree with that. You think about it, and if you're alive during that time period and you watch World War II happen and you watch World War I happen and 100 million people die, doesn't that make you start to wonder if there's some divine purpose to life? If there's all of this death and destruction and heartache and horrible things going on? It kind of makes you go like, oh, all of these people that tell me that there's some special order or special meaning to life, I don't really see a lot of meaning to this. There's a lot of sadness, and there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of evil things going on, and that's pretty tough. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right on that. And then just the chaos of big cities and machinery and all of that stuff. I mean, I like machines. Machines are great, but it's such a different way, especially coming from Bubba coming off the farm in Podunkville, Alabama, where things are just peaceful, but it's all good. All right. Is that enough to help you answer that question, you guys? Is that enough to help you answer that question? Okay. All right, that's it. That was fast. Yeah, Mason, go ahead.
Mr. Jensen, I sort of got in late, and I missed the first fourth. You if it's okay with you, can we stay for a couple of minutes, view those? I missed them.
Yep, I will stop the recording, and then for those of you guys that got it all, great. And then I will, after I'm done talking, I'll go over the first 3 questions or 3 or 4 questions, I think, And then that will be, I think that will be it. So, hey,
All right, thank you.
guys, thanks to all you guys that are watching this on the recording. I hope you're having a great weekend, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Ian, are you done with your dance for the people on the recording? Should I stop the recording now?
I don't know. I mean, you told me that I was like the interpretive dance king, so I
That's
don't know.
right. That's right. Wave goodbye in your interpretive dance way. All right, I'll stop the recording.